Last lesson you looked at factoring. That's where you were changing a standard form into a factored form with the two brackets. And one of the nice things about being able to do that is it makes graphing that parabola a lot easier. Remember that your standard form, the only thing it gives you directly is your direction, in this case up, and your y-intercept, which is a -21, the last number. So if that's the only information you have, that's actually not enough to graph it yet. I mean, I guess you could plug in your -21, but that only gives you 1 point. There's nothing else to graph it on. You could make a table of values, but that's going to take quite a while, right? You have to plug a bunch of x values in, make your big table of values, and then plot all the points. Hopefully we can use what we know about factoring to help us out. If you can switch this into factored form, now you have your x-intercepts. If you have your two x-intercepts, now you can find an axis of symmetry and a vertex. And now you have a bunch of points. You have your graph already. So that's what we're looking at today. So the first step is, let's just rewrite this equation in factored form. You'll notice I've already given you the answer over here, but I'll kind of be referring to it as we figure out 1 or 2 points, or as we figure out the different points to add. You'll notice that they are color-coded. So first thing is, let's just rewrite this in factored form. Okay, there's my standard form there. Remember that when we're factoring, we are looking for numbers that multiply to give us the last number, multiply to give -21, and we're looking for two numbers that add to give the middle number, -4. All right, so we need to figure out what two numbers multiply to -21 and add to -4. If you're not sure, just start with the multiplying, make a big list. Two numbers that multiply to -21. -21 times 1. 21 times -1. -7 times 3. 7 times -3. Make that big list. Choose the ones that multiply to -4. I happened to start with these ones, and I realized by the time I got to these, -7 and 3, those ones were going to work. So I just stopped and I circled those. -7 times 3 is -21. -7 plus 3 is -4. Yep, that works. That's my factored form. X minus 7 times x plus 3. Okay, we're done part A. Standard form, and now a factored form. Okay, factored form gives you the x-intercepts. X-intercepts, zeros. Those mean the same thing, it's just a different word. X-intercepts, zeros, roots. Okay, so now that we have our factored form, we can just say, oh, I know the x-intercepts. All I have to do is switch the sign. So my x-intercepts, or my zeros, would be x equals 7, positive 7, and -3. Okay, that gives me 2 more points. I can start plotting it out here. X is 7. X is -3. Now I have 2 x-intercepts. I have my y-intercept from the standard form. Still not quite enough to graph it, though. What I really need is that vertex, right? If I have the vertex, now I can graph it. All right, well, let's think about it here. We've done questions like this before. If you have the x-intercepts and you want to find the vertex, what do? You start by finding the axis of symmetry, and then you plug that axis of symmetry in to find the coordinates of the vertex. That's what we're going to do now. Okay, axis of symmetry. It's halfway in between our two zeros, our two x-intercepts. Okay, halfway between 7 and -3. I think it's 2. If you're not sure, you can calculate it, right? You add them together, right? Axis of symmetry. You add them together and divide by 2. That'll be halfway in between them. That gives me 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 over 2. which is 2. So x equals 2. That should be halfway in between my x-intercepts. All right, so looking at my graph now, I can add that green line in, right? Right at x equals 2, that's my axis of symmetry. My vertex lies somewhere along that line. Once again, I still don't know where it is though, right? Is it here? I do know it has to be below this red point, right? But is it here, here, way down here? I'm not quite sure. I know it's somewhere on the green line. So the last thing we need to do is we need to substitute that x value back into our equation. Oh, I'll go back to my equation there. Substitute that x value into our equation and figure out what y value goes along with that x, because then we'll have the coordinates for the vertex. So sub x equals 2 into equation to find the vertex. All right, so now I'm going to rewrite my equation, but instead of writing an x, I will write 2. I'm going to plug in 2 for my x's. Rewrite the equation and replace x with 2. And let's simplify this to get our y value. So that now gives me negative 5 times positive 5. That's a negative 25. So my vertex must be occurring at 2 and negative 25. We already knew it was at x equals 2 on the green line. Now we have the y coordinate, though, 2 and negative 25. All right, so I'm going to go up here. I'm going to plot in that point 2 and negative 25. And now I've got more than enough points to plot this in, right? Join that up with my x-intercepts. Make sure it goes through that y-intercept. And now we have a nice graph. We've got lots of details points on it. So now if you were modeling, so we'll kind of look at some word problems in the future. If you were modeling something with this equation, right, now you would know a bunch more information about it. Just by switching it into factored form, you'd get your x-intercepts, and with a little bit of work, you could get your vertex.